Thank you, Tucker. We appreciate it. Welcome to Hannity tonight. All right, the media's anti-Trump echo chamber, they are literally spiraling completely out of control. It has become so bad. You got some of these abusively biased, so-called wannabe journalists. They are absolutely losing it from last night's opening monologue, all because I dared to use Jim Comey's standard in order to criticize some of the left's favorite champions, including the Clintons, Robert Mueller, and Jim Comey himself. Now, since the media is having a really hard time understanding some very simple, basic, fundamental concepts and principles, we will help them tonight follow the bouncing ball in just a few minutes. Also tonight, we will correct the record on some of the fake news that the Washington Post and others that they're spreading about yours truly. And we will reveal now which mobster, murderer, Jim Comey was actually comparing your president to. So be prepared to be outraged. Every fair-minded American is going to see through this. And also tonight, new developments on Mueller's never-ending witch hunt. One former FEC chairman is now coming to the defense of Michael Cohen, the president's personal attorney, and we'll bring you something the mainstream media is all too happy to ignore. The president's accomplishments. When do they ever talk about that in the media? All right, sit tight. We have a lot to get to in tonight's breaking news opening monologue. All right, so here we are. We're on day 330 of Mueller's witch hunt into so-called Trump-Russia collusion. Still nothing. No evidence. Zero. Now, show us the evidence, Mr. Mueller, or you can disband your team of merry Trump-hating, big Democratic, donating sycophants that, of course, have questionable ethics, especially Andrew Weissman. Now, by the way, there's no evidence of collusion so far. The mainstream media is now beginning to go off the rails for that one reason. Remember, why would we be talking about Stormy and Karen McDougal and all this other garbage if they had evidence of collusion? Now, you may remember last night after Jim Comey, remember he compared the president of the United States to a mob boss. Well, I used this ridiculous, sensational, political, I called it what it was, the Comey standard, to highlight some of the crimes and misdeeds that were committed by the Clintons, the way the investigation is being handled by Mueller, and even Comey himself has issues. Take a look. Mr. Comey, you're really going to compare the sitting president of the United States to a mob boss so you can make money? People that are tied to murder, drugs, money laundering, extortion, prostitution, loan sharking, and all sorts of other racketeering crimes. Now, I guess since Comey, if he's going to use the sweeping analogy, I've decided tonight we're going to use the Comey standard, I call it, and make some comparisons of our own. We're doing what Comey did. And I also issued a tweet last night during the show to try and help some of these idiots in the abusively biased news media actually understand my monologue, which they weren't understanding. So fake news, please, I'm trying to help you follow the bouncing ball. I said this is the Comey standard. And I'm sure that you're upset that the former FBI director, literally, he was commenting and comparing a sitting president to the mob. You know, murderers, drug dealers, involved in extortion, loan sharking, prostitution. And by the way, breaking tonight, now we have more details. ABC News is reporting that the actual mobster that Comey was comparing the president to was none other than Sammy the Bull Gravano, an infamous hitman, if you don't know, responsible for 19 murders. That's the FBI director comparing the president of the United States to it, and other felonies, of course. Now, despite my very clear analogy, you have to really try hard not to get it, about Comey's ridiculous comparison, this still caused many in the mainstream media to become completely and totally unglued, even emotional. Now, these people are, frankly, they're so dumb. They really are. It's actually kind of laughable, but they are. Take a look.
Who needs TV Guide when they have POTUS? We'll show you exactly what President Trump was promoting through his Twitter page last night. It was one of his stooges doing a show that really helps the president. It's incredible. Staggering.
Bob Mueller, whatever you want to say about him, this is not taking a position on his investigation, is a man who's served this country for his entire life. So to call him the head of a crime family, that's new territory.
It's beneath contempt. Sean Hannity is a desperate, desperate man, desperately defending a desperate, desperate president.
Phil, if I can, I want to get your reaction to Sean Hannity calling Robert Mueller a crime boss. I spent 4.5 years by Robert Mueller. This is a storied prosecutor, one of the most legendary FBI directors. So you got that dirtbag telling me that one of the most storied FBI directors ever is a crime boss? You put them side by side and you tell me what we got here, John. Facts or facts? Robert Mueller's an American legend.
President Trump's tweets tonight. He said, big show on Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock on Fox. Well, if you watched Hannity, you would see this, the show hitting James Comey and highlighting what Hannity calls the Mueller crime family. This is a message the president wants.
Phil Mudd, I would suggest that you might want to talk to the four families involved in the case with Whitey Bulger that were innocent and put in jail and got over $100 million payout. Or maybe you can ask your good friend, Mr. Mueller, why would he hire somebody like Andrew Weissman? Liberal Joe, you're just dumb. Nothing to really say to you. Now, not to be outdone, the print media also chiming in. This includes the Washington Post. They call me, quote, conspiratorial. I guess they haven't been watching MSNBC and CNN fake news for a year and a half. These so-called journalists, did they even watch last night's monologue? Or are they just too dumb to follow a simple analogy? Either way, as I said on Twitter during the show last night, let's help them follow the bouncing ball so even they can get it. Now, I'll talk slowly so the mainstream media understands. Comey was the director of the FBI. He compared the president to a mob boss. Now we know it's Sammy the Bull Gravano. So I called Comey out on what he did, and I talked about what real mob bosses are like. And we reminded him about Al Capone and Lucky Luciano and John Gotti. And then I used the former director's criminalization of political differences, now known as the Comey standards, to call out the misdeeds and, frankly, the crimes of a few champions of the left wing in this country. Let's start with Hillary Clinton. We know she committed felonies with her email server, and we know she obstructed justice. Robert Mueller, this great reputation, what? He's locked up innocent people in cases he's been involved in. He staffed his Russia investigation with Trump-hating Democratic donors, including his so-called New York Times, as they call him and describe him, legal pit bull, Andrew Weissman. This man's track record is atrocious, as we have explained. And Jim Comey, of course, grossly mishandled the Clinton email investigation. We'll learn more when the IG report finally comes out. And Comey also leaked potentially classified documents that resulted in the appointment of his BFF, Robert Mueller, as the special counsel. Okay, well, that's privileged information, government documents we're talking about. Now, one of the reasons the media's coverage of last night's monologue was so completely unhinged is because President Trump issued a tweet prompting people to watch last night's show. He's done this occasionally, and I'm very thankful, by the way. I had no idea that the president was planning to tweet. I'm glad he did. There was no coordinated effort. I start my monologue at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and we keep building it all day. I have the text timelines to show when I brought up this idea from the time that I read what Comey had said. But it didn't stop the Washington Post accusing me of being a shadow White House press secretary, which is funny, and colluding with the president. Okay, they've lost their minds. This is complete, total fake news BS. And the best part is, if they actually wanted to know the truth, maybe they could have picked up a telephone to call me or call Fox, you know, do some actual journalism. I spend my free hours when I'm not on air calling people all the time so I can be the most informed person that I can possibly be. And I've said many times, journalism in this country is dead, it is buried, and has been since, 2007. So instead of reporting facts, these so-called news outlets, they just literally push their own political narrative, all while hiding behind this, feigned moral outrage, this moral facade, and calling themselves journalists. So while the media and the mainstream media gets mad at it, I'm an opinion journalist host. By the way, frankly, we've broken more news on this program than they broke in a year and a half. They just echo the same talking points every night. And they're totally happy to forget about all of the former FBI Director Comey's misdeeds, including leaking potentially classified privilege notes to the press to set up a special counsel, his potential weaponization of the FISA court system, the special treatment he gave Hillary Clinton, who we know committed felonies during that email investigation. He wrote the letter exonerating Clinton in May, before he interviewed her in July and 17 other key witnesses. And remember, when Comey lied about this very subject in front of Congress while under oath, he lied about it. We have him in his own words, and we have the videotape. As Warner Wolf says, let's go to the videotape.
Director, did you make the decision not to recommend criminal charges relating to classified information before or after Hillary Clinton was interviewed by the FBI on July the 2nd?
After. But if colleagues of ours believe I am lying about when I made this decision, please urge them to contact me privately so we can have a conversation about this. All I can do is tell you again, the decision was made after that because I didn't know what was going to happen in that interview. She maybe lied during the interview in a way we could prove.
But just in case we wrote the exoneration months earlier, and then, interview by Peter Strzok. Oh, that's right, the Trump-hating guy. Despite all of this, the mainstream media, their friends in the Democratic Party, they're currently treating Comey like the anti-Trump golden goose. I guess they forgot how much they actually hated him during the investigation of Hillary Clinton. Here's Comey's best friends today. Watch this.
Striking is the extent to which the FBI director of the United States is allowing himself to be interjected into this political campaign. Unprecedented.
James Comey is getting horrible advice. He is interfering in this election. I don't understand what the guy's doing.
He's got a big burden of proof, so to speak, on him for why he did what seems to be such an appalling act that goes against the tradition of prosecutors at every level of government. It was, when I heard about it, I found it hard to believe that Comey, who I thought had some degree of integrity, would do this.
It is conceivable that this was just a coincidence, but coming on top of the Director Comey's, very unusual and controversial release last week, it just makes the FBI look like a wing of the Republican Party.
I think he made a mistake on this, and he clearly has a double standard.
Whether or not Comey's intervention has affected the presidential race, it's clear that his disclosure and the spate of now competing, one might even say warring FBI leaks that have followed, have raised serious questions about the FBI's integrity and impartiality.
I just tell you, the integrity of Comey as well as the FBI is in question. It makes you wonder.
We're all disturbed, first of all, by the letter, which really broke precedent, was over the advice of the leaders in the Justice Department. I'm not challenging Mr. Comey's motivation, but I do think it was unwarranted. It was a mistake.
I am so disappointed in Comey. He has let the country down for partisan purposes, and that's why I called him the new J. Edgar Hoover, because I believe that.
Do you believe that Jim Comey should resign, Senator Reid?
Of course, yes.
They hated him. Now the media is back in love with James Comey, and the montage that you just saw is just another piece of evidence proving facts do not matter to these people on the left, only ideology.